We have an instrument on Voyager which can measure the density of the ions, the plasma which is out there.
Ingenuity had to survive a 7-month journey through space.
NASA's latest Mars missions have turned up some pretty cool stuff. With surprising finds and cool data, there's a lot to unpack.
It took almost 7 months for the telescope to unfold, calibrate, and reach its orbit 1,000,000 miles from Earth.
What secrets might these discoveries hold about our neighboring planet? Let's find out. 1. Evidence of life on Mars. The Perseverance rover is on Mars exploring a spot called Jezero Crater. This crater used to be filled with water a long time ago, which makes it a great place to look for clues about life. Right now, the rover is checking out rocks in an old riverbed where water once flowed into the crater. Scientists think this is one of the best spots to find out if life ever existed on Mars. One rock in particular, called Chava, caught their attention. It has a smooth, layered look, which could mean it formed in water, like some rocks on Earth that are made from mud or sand in lakes or rivers. Perseverance drilled into the rock and found something really cool, traces of chemicals that might be from living things, like carbon compounds and iron phosphates. These chemicals are important because they're the kind of stuff that life is made of. Water means there might have been life on Mars at some point, even if it was centuries ago. 2. Organic compounds. Organic compounds are special chemicals that have carbon in them, and they are really important because they make up all living things on Earth. Plants, animals, and humans all have organic compounds. So when scientists find these compounds somewhere like Mars, they get excited because it might mean that the planet once had the right conditions for life. Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. The Perseverance rover on Mars discovered some organic compounds in a rock called Chava. This rock is found in an area that used to be a riverbed a long time ago, which means water likely flowed there billions of years ago. The rover drilled into the rock and used special instruments to find signs of carbon-based compounds inside.
Ingenuity rover covered over 28 miles or 45 kilometers in under 15 years.
While this doesn't prove that there was ever life on Mars, it is a strong clue that the planet had the basic ingredients for life in the past. 3. Methane variability. Scientists have been trying to figure out why the amount of methane on Mars changes so much. Methane is a gas that could come from living things or natural processes. It's been found in small amounts since the 2000s, but the levels go up and down a lot, and no one knows why. The Curiosity rover has measured tiny amounts of methane at Gale Crater, with some spikes where it goes up to 20 parts per billion. These changes happen over short periods, which makes scientists think methane isn't spread evenly around the planet. It seems to show up in patches that can appear and disappear quickly. Methane levels also seem to change with the time of day and season. Some think this might be because of changes in temperature or pressure on the planet's surface. The gas might come from places under the ground, or it could be made by chemical reactions in the soil. Scientists are also looking into whether methane is destroyed faster than they expect, which could explain why it doesn't last long in the atmosphere. Even with all this info, there's still a lot to learn about where the methane comes from and why it changes so much. 4. Rock formation ages. Finding out how old rocks on Mars are helps scientists understand the planet's past and whether it might have had life. The Curiosity and Perseverance rovers have been doing great work figuring this out. Curiosity uses a method called potassium-argon dating. It checks how much radioactive potassium has turned into argon gas to figure out a rock's age. For example, one rock from Gale Crater is estimated to be between 3.86 and 4.56 billion years old. There's another method called argon-argon dating that scientists use on Martian meteorites found on Earth. This method shows that some volcanic rocks are between 161 and 540 million years old, which suggests Mars might still have some volcanic activity. Mars has gone through different geological periods. The Noachian period, which is the oldest, was around 4.1 to 3.7 billion years ago, and had a lot of water. Then came the Hesperian period, from about 3.7 to 2.9 billion years ago, which was filled with volcanic activity and lava. The Amazonian period started around 3 billion years ago and has fewer impacts, with ongoing changes in Mars geology. 5. Presence of sulfur crystals. NASA's Curiosity rover made a surprising discovery on Mars by finding bright yellow sulfur crystals, which is a big deal for scientists studying the planet's geology. On May 30th, 2024, while exploring the Geddes Vallis area on Mount Sharp, Curiosity accidentally broke open a rock that looked like a squashed geode. Inside, it found pure sulfur crystals, which are different from the sulfates found before. These crystals are translucent and look like yellow gemstones, but they're much softer and easy to break. What makes this find interesting is that sulfur usually forms under special conditions, like volcanic activity or hot water systems on Earth. Scientists are now trying to figure out if these conditions also existed on Mars in the past. The area where the crystals were found has signs of ancient water flow, so the discovery changes what scientists thought about Mars's history. 6. Kepler Space Telescope discovers smaller planet. The Kepler Space Telescope was a NASA mission launched on March 7, 2009, with the goal of finding planets outside our solar system, especially ones like Earth. Named after the astronomer Johannes Kepler, it worked until 2018 and helped us learn a lot about planets orbiting other stars. Kepler mainly focused on a group of stars in the constellation Cygnus. It watched around 150,000 stars and looked for small dips in their brightness to find planets passing in front of them. By the time Kepler stopped working, it had found 2,778 planets and identified over 5,000 possible planets. This included some exciting discoveries, like Kepler 22b, the first planet in a star's habitable zone, and Kepler 186f, the first Earth-sized planet in that zone.
Located about 1,400 light-years from Earth in the constellation of Cygnus,
Kepler also showed that there are all sorts of planets out there, from giant hot Jupiters to smaller planets like super-Earths. It even found systems with more than one planet orbiting a single star. 7. New Saturn moons. In 2019, NASA announced that 20 new moons were found orbiting Saturn. This brought Saturn's total number of moons to 82, beating Jupiter, which had 79. These moons are small, with each one being only a few miles wide, and they take a very long time to circle around Saturn. Some of them even move in the opposite direction of the planet's spin, which is something scientists find interesting. What makes this discovery even cooler is how these moons were found. Scientists used powerful telescopes to spot them, and it took a lot of patience and careful work. Since these moons are so tiny and far away, they can be hard to see. 8. The TRAPPIST-1 system. The TRAPPIST-1 system is an interesting star system located about 40 light-years away in the constellation Aquarius. It's special because it has 7 planets that are all about the size of Earth, and 3 of them are in a spot where liquid water could exist, called the habitable zone. The star, TRAPPIST-1, is much smaller and cooler than our Sun. It's an M-type star, meaning it has only about 8% of the Sun's mass and a much lower temperature. Because of this, the habitable zone is much closer to the star than in our solar system. The 7 planets, named TRAPPIST-1b through H, have some cool features. TRAPPIST-1e, F, and G are in the habitable zone and might have conditions that allow water. The other planets, like TRAPPIST-1b, C, and D, are too hot, and TRAPPIST-1h is likely too cold. 9. Mars helicopter. Ingenuity. The Ingenuity. Mars helicopter has taught us a lot about flying on other planets. It was part of NASA's Mars 2020 mission, and its job was to show that powered flight could work in the thin air on Mars. Ingenuity was launched with the Perseverance rover on July 30th, 2020, and landed on Mars on February 18th, 2021.
Ingenuity had to survive a 7-month journey through space, followed by 7 minutes of terror as its rover descended to the Martian surface.
After being placed on the Martian surface on April 4th, 2021, it began a series of test flights. On April 19th, 2021, it made its first flight, rising about 10 feet in the air, hovering for 30 seconds, and landing safely. This was the first powered flight on another planet. Ingenuity is pretty small, weighing only 4 pounds and standing about 1.6 feet tall. It's powered by solar panels and can fly up to 33 feet high and over 2,000 feet in distance. Its rotor blades have to spin really fast to work in Mars's thin atmosphere, and it flies on its own without help from Earth. 10. Voyager 1 enters interstellar space. Voyager 1 is a spacecraft launched by NASA on September 5, 1977. It made history on August 25, 2012, when it became the first human-made object to enter interstellar space.
We have an instrument on Voyager which can measure the density of the ions, the plasma which is out there.
This means it passed the boundary of our solar system, called the heliopause, where the sun's influence ends and space beyond our solar system begins. The heliopause is where the solar wind, made up of particles from the sun, becomes too weak to push against particles from outside our solar system. When Voyager 1 crossed this boundary, it was about 11.25 billion miles from the sun. Scientists knew it had entered interstellar space when the solar wind dropped a lot and cosmic rays from other stars increased. Although Voyager 1 crossed the boundary in 2012, it wasn't until March 2013 that scientists confirmed this because they needed to study the data carefully. The spacecraft has been sending back important information about interstellar space, helping scientists learn more about what it's like beyond our solar system. 11. James Webb Space Telescope. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope discovered an important carbon molecule in space called the methyl cation. This molecule is really important because it helps form other complex carbon-based compounds, which are needed for life. A team of scientists detected the methyl cation in the protoplanetary disk around a young star system called D203-506, located about 1,150 light-years away in the Orion Nebula. JWST's advanced technology allowed them to spot it by looking at its special light signals.
It took almost 7 months for the telescope to unfold, calibrate, and reach its orbit 1,000,000 miles from Earth.
Methyl cation acts like a starting point for other molecules because it can easily react with many different things. This makes it a key part of the chemistry that happens between stars and helps create more complex organic molecules needed for life. Its discovery helps confirm old ideas about space chemistry and opens up new ways to study how life-supporting molecules form. 12. Parker Solar Probe. NASA's Parker Solar Probe, launched on August 12, 2018, is on a special mission to study the sun's outer atmosphere and solar wind. This spacecraft is named after Dr. Eugene Parker, who first came up with the idea of the solar wind in the 1950s. The probe is getting closer to the sun than any spacecraft before it, helping scientists figure out important questions about how the sun works. The main goals of the Parker Solar Probe are to understand why the sun's outer atmosphere, called the corona, is hotter than its surface, learn more about where the solar wind comes from, and study the sun's magnetic fields and how they cause solar activity. In April 2021, the probe became the first spacecraft to enter the solar corona, letting scientists collect data directly from the sun's atmosphere. 13. Osiris Rex. NASA's Osiris Rex mission is a big project to study the near-Earth asteroid Bennu and bring back samples to Earth. It launched on September 8, 2016, and is the first U.S. mission to collect material from an asteroid. The main goal is to gather at least 60 grams of rock and dust from Bennu's surface to help scientists learn more about how the solar system was formed. After launching, Osiris Rex flew by Earth in 2017 for a gravity boost, reaching Bennu in December 2018. The spacecraft spent several months mapping and studying Bennu's surface to find the best place to collect samples. On October 20th, 2020, it touched down on a spot called Nightingale for just 6 seconds, using gas to stir up the surface and collect around 121 grams of material. 14. Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. Since it started its mission in 2009, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has made some amazing discoveries about the Moon. One of the biggest finds is water ice. LRO has found ice in areas of the Moon that never see sunlight, called permanently shadowed regions. These spots stay really cold, so ice can stick around for billions of years. LRO uses special tools to detect hydrogen, which hints that water ice is there. LRO also helped make a detailed map of water on the Moon, showing where it might be and how it moves. This info is super important for future trips to the Moon. In 2009, LRO worked with another spacecraft called L-Cross, which hit a lunar crater and sent up a plume of water ice particles that LRO observed. 15. Artemis Program. Permanently shadowed regions are craters that never get sunlight because of the Moon's tilt and their deep shape, making them super cold, around 250 degrees. Because they're so dark and cold, these craters can keep water ice and other substances from escaping into space for billions of years. PSRs are important because they trap water ice and other materials, helping us learn about the Moon's history. Missions like NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and the Lunar Crater Observation and Sensing Satellite have found water ice in these craters. L-Cross, for example, discovered water ice in Cabeus crater in 2009. They've also found hydroxyl, which suggests water might be mixed into lunar minerals. 16. Close-up shots of Pluto. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft sent back amazing close-up photos of Pluto on July 14, 2015. These images, taken from about 7,800 miles away, showed us what Pluto really looks like up close. The spacecraft used a special camera called the Long Range Reconnaissance Imager to snap these pictures with such detail that scientists could see features as small as half a city block. The pictures showed huge mountains made of water ice, some taller than the Rocky Mountains on Earth. They also captured vast plains covered in nitrogen ice, showing how Pluto's surface changes over time. There were different types of terrain, like ridged areas and chaotic mountain ranges, hinting at a lot of geological activity. The color pictures showed a mix of light and dark areas, suggesting different materials on Pluto's surface. 17. Galaxy GN-Z11. Galaxy GN-Z11 is one of the most distant and bright galaxies we've found, sitting about 32 billion light-years away from Earth. Discovered in 2015 by the Hubble Space Telescope, GN-Z11 has become a big deal in astronomy, especially with the new James Webb Space Telescope. It's so far away that we're seeing it as it was just 430 million years after the Big Bang, when the universe was still young. Findings from JWST have shown some cool stuff about GN-Z11. For one, there's a huge black hole at its center, about 2 million times the mass of our Sun. This black hole is pulling in a lot of material and making the galaxy super bright. Scientists also think GN-Z11 might have some of the very first stars ever made, called Population 3 stars, which are huge and bright but hard to spot. 18. Tess exoplanet discoveries. NASA's Tess has been a game changer in finding new planets since it launched on April 18, 2018. Tess is designed to spot planets by looking for tiny dips in a star's brightness when a planet passes in front of it. This method has helped Tess discover many different kinds of exoplanets, including some that are Earth-sized and in their star's habitable zone, where conditions might be right for life. By early 2024, Tess had confirmed about 385 exoplanets out of nearly 7,100 candidates. Some of its notable finds include TOI 700d, which is Earth-sized and gets similar energy from its star as Earth does. Another interesting planet, TOI 1420b, has a very low density, hinting at a thick layer of hydrogen and helium around a smaller rocky core. Tess also found a 6-planet system around the star HD 11167, showing how planets can be arranged in a stable way. 19. Water on exoplanet K2-18b. K2-18b is a planet that's about 120 light-years away in the constellation Leo. It's known as a super-Earth because it's bigger than Earth but smaller than Neptune. K2-18b orbits a cool star named K2-18, and it's in the habitable zone, where conditions might be right for liquid water. In 2019, scientists using the Hubble Space Telescope found water vapor in K2-18b's atmosphere. They checked old data from 2016 and 2017 and discovered water vapor along with hydrogen and helium. This was a big deal because it was the first time water vapor was found on a planet in its star's habitable zone. The James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, took a closer look at K2-18b. In September 2023, it found carbon-based molecules like methane and carbon dioxide, adding to the water vapor discovery. This suggests that K2-18b might have huge oceans and a hydrogen-rich atmosphere. There's even a hint that something like dimethyl sulfide, which is linked to life on Earth, could be present. 20. Farthest out. Farthest out is the nickname for the farthest known object in our solar system, officially called 2018 AG37. It was first spotted in January 2018 using the Subaru telescope in Hawaii. Farthest out is super far from the Sun, about 132 astronomical units away, which is more than 12 billion miles. That's nearly 4 times farther than Pluto. Since its discovery, astronomers have kept a close eye on Farthest out with the Gemini North Telescope and the Magellan telescopes in Chile. They needed a lot of time to track it because it moves really slowly across the sky. They officially named it 2018 AG37 in February 2021 after figuring out its path around the Sun. 21. Gravitational waves. The discovery of gravitational waves is a huge deal in space science, confirming something Albert Einstein predicted over 100 years ago. Gravitational waves are like ripples in the fabric of space caused by big things like black holes or neutron stars crashing together. Einstein first thought about gravitational waves in 1916, saying that big moving objects would create these ripples, but detecting them was super hard because they are very weak. In 1974, scientists Russell Hulse and Joseph Taylor saw indirect signs of gravitational waves from a pair of spinning stars, which got them a Nobel Prize in 1993. 22. Phosphine in Venus's atmosphere. In September 2020, scientists found phosphine in the clouds of Venus, and it got a lot of attention. Phosphine is a gas that's usually made by living things on Earth, like microbes in swamps. The discovery came from a team led by Jane Greaves from Cardiff University, using data from big telescopes like the James Clerk Maxwell telescope. They found phosphine at about 20 parts per billion in Venus's atmosphere. Even though this amount is small, it was enough to get people talking about the chance of life on Venus. Venus has really extreme conditions on its surface, with temperatures around 900 degrees Fahrenheit and huge pressure. But the clouds, about 30 miles up, are cooler and could be more hospitable for life. After the news broke, some scientists were skeptical. Follow-up studies from other telescopes, like NASA's SOFIA, didn't find much phosphine, suggesting it might be there in even smaller amounts. But in July 2024, new findings hinted at both phosphine and ammonia in Venus's atmosphere, sparking renewed interest in the idea of life there. 23. Marsquake detection. Finding marsquakes has been a big step forward in learning about Mars and how it works. NASA's InSight mission, which landed on Mars in November 2018, has been key in this discovery. It uses a special seismometer to listen for shakes and rumbles on Mars. Marsquakes are like earthquakes, but on Mars. They can happen because of things like the planet cooling down and cracking, magma moving around, or even when meteoroids crash into Mars. InSight's seismometer is really good at picking up these weak shakes because Mars is quieter than Earth, with less background noise from things like tectonic activity. The first Marsquake was spotted on April 6, 2019, marking the start of Mars seismology. The biggest quake so far was in May 2022, with a magnitude of 5. This quake was a big deal because it was stronger than scientists expected. Do you think there's more mysterious stuff on Mars that no one's found just yet. What other mysteries are there in our solar system?